All right, looks like we're ready to roll. So thank you all for joining today. This is BMI's webinar on CRM. And so my name is Jason. I'm going to be your MC. Let's get the screen shared and get rolling. All right, just give me a thumbs up here if you can see our slide deck. Perfect, thumbs up. All right. All right, excellent. So as I said, my name is Jason. I'll be your MC for today. And our topic for today revolves around the CRM and some of the processes and features within it. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the kiosks feature within the Zoho CRM. Now, the kiosk system is a series of steps that you can set up, a process, if you will, for the CRM so that you can guide your users through basically the process that you want them to follow. But before we dive into any of the actual technical elements of what kiosks are, how you set them up, how to use them, how they can keep people on track, really we need to start with, as BMI always does, the importance of CRM as a role and the business objectives that we're trying to solve. So to quote BMI's president, he or she with the biggest active database wins. That is to say, whomever has the largest list of clients, whether they are potential, active, past, or anybody in between, they are the ones who have the best chance at success. For any business, having this list is no longer sufficient, though. The list needs to be actionable, needs to be sortable, needs to be mineable, and the key word from my earlier quote, active. A list unto itself, the CRM having data in there unto itself, without it being properly digitized such that, Zoho CRM can be utilizing your list. You can't manage, you can't optimize, you can't leverage that list. And if you don't have the software doing it for you, as soon as you start to grow that biggest active database, it becomes impractical at best to try and manage it manually and impossible at worst. Do you imagine Amazon trying to manually keep up with who their clients are and send emails to them, trying to add them in as a manual process? Of course not. You couldn't possibly do it. It's unfathomably large. And so that's where things and processes that live within the CRM, such as kiosks, comes into play. Zoho CRM is ultimately fulfilling the need, and does so elegantly, of making sure that your list is not just a list, but it is actionable, organized, and that the data you enter in is useful. Just one of the ways to leverage your list to grow your business is kiosks, and we'll be covering that today. As a sneak preview, here are some of the things you should keep an eye out for as takeaways. So first, how to set up Kiosk Studio. How do you even turn it on? Where is it in the CRM? Can you find it in the settings at all? Second, you should be keeping an eye on how to automate customer data collection and follow-ups. How do you build that bigger database? How do you sync Kiosk Studio data seamlessly in the CRM? Having the data in there isn't just enough. Even if it's good data, now you need to make it actionable. You should be keeping an eye out for how to streamline service check-ins, which is a fantastic use and a sort of use case of a Kiosk Studio. And lastly, how to scale your business operations with kiosks. Some ideas and suggestions there. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our senior specialist, Brian, who's going to actually take the screen share and walk us through all of these things. Also, just before we dive in, we've got two other members of our team with us today. Eugenio and Shubham are both in the background. So if you have any questions, make sure you post them over in our chat. There's a specific tab for the chat, and then there's a specific chat for the Q&A. If you throw any of the questions you have along the way in there, one of us three will continue to field those questions live whilst Brian continues with his demo. So I turn it over to you, Brian.
Thanks, Jason. So let me go ahead and steal the screen share here. All right. Can I get a thumbs up if my screen share is visible? I have a couple. Perfect. Awesome. So let's get started here. Now, let's think up of a scenario here that, let's say you are an admin in charge of answering the phone or helping guests at the front desk. You have John Doe as a frequent traveler, and he's looking to just update the number of guests in his party, in his reservation. With Zoho Kiosk Studio, you can efficiently access his booking information and then make the necessary updates to his booking. So let's take John Doe. We get his booking ID, a very arbitrary booking ID here for our example, and we hit the check button. At this point, the Zoho kiosk will allow us to grab information based on the booking ID right in front of us as the admin. And we can confirm your name is John Doe. You have 8 guests for your party, and your booking date is on March 7th. That's correct. And you said you're looking to update your number of guests from 8 to how many? 10. Perfect. Now that's been updated in our system. Someone is going to contact you within the next couple of days, right? So that's kind of like how your conversation with that with John Doe would look like. But in the screen of your admin, you're going to see that the record has been updated on the back end and the necessary automation has been triggered. So let's just quickly take a look at what happened to that record. So I have already a tab open here for John Doe. I'm going to go and refresh this page so you can see the updates that we've had. On the back end, based on your processes and your SOP, standard operating procedures, right? Whenever for this business and use case, we have every time that a customer updates their guest list or anything, any updates that happens on their account, they get tagged with updated number of guests in their system. There's a task that's going to get created to let them know, hey, you need to follow up with a phone call on their account. And then lastly, their number of guests got updated from 8 to 10. Right, so those are just basic automations for the streamline process of this for this demo. So let's go ahead and see how we create this very simple Zoho Kiosk Studio. So in your CRM, I'm going to go and open my setup. So you go to the gear icon setup and go to under customization, you'll find Zoho Kiosk Studio. In this Kiosk Studio, you'll see that I already have one created for the sake of the demo, but maybe for you, you don't have this created Kiosk Studio. You will have a different view here. Just go ahead and press the button that says Create Kiosk Studio there. So let's go ahead and create one. Can I ask you for a name? Let's put in a name. Definitely really good practice, best practice to have a description. For now, we're just going to go ahead and skip that. Let's hit next. And you're going to navigate to this page right here. Right away, you see on the top right, you have test run for running tests and seeing what your Kiosk Studio looks like, what your Kiosk Studio looks like as you run through it and you build it, and then you can publish it as you are done. On the left side panel here, you'll notice a little bit of a boxed arrow here that shows and hides this panel. This panel here, you have 3 different headings. You have current record, that has this button that says set module. So what this does is it allows you to relate this Zoho kiosk to a module where you're going to be putting it in. For our demonstration, we don't need to worry about relating this to a module because, as you can see, this lives in our homepage dashboard. I will go over the different options of where you can add the Kiosk Studio later on. The other headings is get records and queries. For now, we're not going to worry about that. But what this is essentially going to show you is as you create functions called get records and queries, they're going to get listed down here on the left side where you are able to access them simply and very easily to update any of the conditions that you have put together. In the middle here is where we get started. So in the middle here, you see the start and the end. You have a plus sign to add different components in your Kiosk Studio flow. As you hit the plus button, you're going to get these options: screen, decision, and action. Screen is for navigation purposes, right? This is what is going to be accessible and interactable with in the screen of your CRM with your users, right? You're going to use this to input data, pull data, and navigate through your processes. Decision here, it allows you to create branches based on user input or data within the system that you're relating back to. And then lastly here, we have action. If you're familiar with Zoho CRM workflows, you'll see that these are very similar, if not the same. You have field updates, email notifications, and for more advanced options, you have webhook and function. But let's go ahead and let's create our first screen, our first display screen for Zoho Kiosk Studio. Right away, it's going to ask you to put a screen name, right? We want to be very, very detailed about our screen name because your Zoho Kiosk process can get very big and some of components are able to talk to each other. And for you to be able to navigate through it, it's best that you have very clear names for your screens if you need to relate back to it. So for now, what we're going to do here for our very first screen is we're going to have a check-in screen. Our name of the screen is check-in. You'll see a little button here that says add. In this add button, you're able to add in the display elements that you're looking for. So there's different ones that we have: text, we have get records, queries, Zia insights, and then the fields that we want to be able to update or input. So you have all the different types of fields that's matching to based on the data that you will be collecting. So for our purpose here, let's go ahead and create a text, display text that's going to say get enter booking ID. From there, you'll see if you wanted to preview this right away, there's a little preview button on the bottom left here to say, all right, this is what it currently looks like. Wonderful. And let's add the different type of fields. So for our booking ID, we are going to enter in a single line field. And for our phone number, we're going to enter a phone number field. You'll notice as well that whenever I entered one of these fields, you can see that there's options here to say merge from module, mark it as mandatory, show tooltip. These two are pretty self-explanatory there. Merging from module is not so straightforward, but basically what this is going to allow you to do is you take the information on a related record and you can pull that and put it as a value into the field. I'm going to show you how that works later on when we're updating the number of guests, but just keep that in mind. Because right now we don't have any module that's related into our Zoho Kiosk as we started. So at this point, we have this little window that we're going to be working with. You see this button right here, it says done. Maybe we don't want it to say done. We can update that as well. This little window here, when you hover on it, it's going to highlight. Click on that, and we can change the label. There's different options for the style, up to your preference, what you want it to look like. You'll see the preview of what that button is going to look like. Let's just go ahead and say, this is what we're looking for. Perfect. So we just created our first screen. Preview that. That's what it looks like. If you test run this, because this is the only thing that you have, nothing's really going to happen. You can play with the fields, what it looks like, what it feels like. But when you hit check, nothing's really happening because, again, we need to be able to use that information that we entered in the screen. So that's what's gonna be coming in next. We entered the booking ID or the phone number. At this time, we're gonna just focus on booking ID, and we're gonna create a decision tree. We're gonna create a decision on a branch where we find the booking ID or we don't find the booking ID, right? So this is our decision tree. So we're going to name it the same. Our first path. So sorry, let me just retract that. So now with this decision tree, we're able to add different paths of whether based on the information that we gathered or the user input. Here we're going to add a condition based on whether on booking ID is found. And this is where we're going to take this get records function. So this get records function, let's just go ahead and click on that. We have one now created one. So we're going to go ahead and create one. So this new records function acts as a very like a custom view, to say the least, right? Where it's going to be able to pull data for you based on certain conditions. So let's go ahead and update the name of the get records to get record of booking ID. Here you have a couple of options. You have parents, you have child module. Parent module is basically just you looking at any of the module and you have your condition based on any of the fields for that module. If you're selecting child module, here you're playing around with a little bit more relationship between different types of modules. So you have a relationship between contacts and deals, or contacts and accounts, or deals or accounts. And you can go ahead and get a record in terms of that relationship. For our purpose, we're just going to go ahead with the parent module. We only need to pull in the deal module that will have a booking ID matching the field. So we have two options here. We have value and field. Value is if you're hard coding a certain value based on your process, or field based on the input. Here you'll see why it's important for our screen names and why it matters. You'll see that one of our options has this thing called check-in, and then you have this greater than or a little arrow here pointing to booking ID. This first part here shows us this is the screen it's in, and this second part here is showing what field that you're referencing that you want it to match. So in our first screen that's called check-in, we want to find in the deals module the record with a booking ID the same as the one that was inputted. And that's how you're going to set up this get records. You have sorting preferences, ascending or descending. This part we're not going to worry about because we know and we have an assumption that the booking ID will always be unique. So we're always going to either get a result, one result, or no result at all. And you can see that here as well. Records to fetch. You have multiple records, and then you have single records. Again, under the assumption that it's going to be unique, we're going to take in the single record. And here would be the fields that we want to display. So let's go ahead and say we want to display the deal name, the contact name, the number of guests, the dates. And I think that's all we need for that one. Oh, we need the booking ID and maybe the phone number. From there, we can hit save, right? So now this get records is going to give us the booking ID if our booking ID is found. And the condition here, what we want to do is we want, in order for us to go down this path, we're checking this condition to say that it has data. If you say no data, then you're going down a different path. At this point, we only want 2 branches. If it's found or not found, we have here at the very bottom what you would say would be the defaults. So if this is false, it's just going to continue down to the default, and we can just update this to booking ID is not found. And from there, we've created a decision tree. And you'll notice as I press done, this first check-in is going to advance for the next step of the decision. And what this decision tree is going to result in are 2 different branches. One that if the booking is found or when it's not found. We're not going to worry about going down the not found. We're just going to continue on creating for the booking ID is found for the demonstration purposes. So let's go ahead and create another screen here. Now in this screen, what we want to show is the upcoming trip. How we're going to do that is, I'm just going to go back here before we create that. What this does is takes in the information, and then this creates a branch for taking that information and finding out if it's found. But we haven't displayed this yet. This is only on the back end. We need to be able to show our user the details that was found. So we're going to update the screen we're going to create a screen for upcoming trip details. And the way we show that is using the same get records function that we just created earlier. And you see here, we have it. If I hover on it, it says get record of booking ID. We just select that. And that's pretty much what we're looking at here for this screen. If I hit preview, you'll see that it's going to show me the booking ID, the deal name, the contact names, and all the fields that we put in for the display. At this point, we need to have different actions that the user can take. So we're going to add a couple of different options here for buttons. So here we're going to update this to update number of guests. Here, update the dates. Maybe they want to confirm, or maybe they want to cancel. And let's go play around with a little bit of the display and the design of our widgets. So if I change these button styles and I go to preview, I can see now there's 4 buttons that the user is able to select and navigate through. Okay, now when I hit done, you'll see that the 4 buttons will also yield 4 different branches. And you can see how, creating processes here is going to and creating different branches, you'll see how big it can get. The more streamlined you want to process, or there's more options that you're looking for in your process, right? So not only will the decision can create multiple paths, but your buttons as well will create multiple paths. So that's that's what I wanted to demonstrate with the decision tree there and with the multiple buttons. But we're going to go ahead and continue on with updating the number of guests. So guess what? We went into this branch. Now we want to update the number of guests. We're in that step now. So let's go ahead and create a screen for updating the number of guests. And this is where we're going to go back to my point at the very beginning of this demo, where we're going to merge it. We're going to merge our single line field. So update number of guests. So we're going to merge this field now from the module. And which module we're going to be merging it from? It'll be from the get records function module that we just used. How do we merge it? So we're going to merge it with the number sign, or maybe you know it as the hashtag. In your keyboard, you just shift 3. It's going to pop up this little window here. And then from there, you'll see different options. You have the kiosk, which is the name of our kiosk check-in. And then you have different modules. We're not going to worry about the other modules. We're only worried about our check-in, because this is the kiosk we're working in right now. So let's go ahead and select that. And then from here, you can see, again, it's important that we're aware of what we're building here. There's a screen for check-in. We don't need any information from there. However, we do need to collect data from our get records function, right? So here we're going to go and select that. And then from there, it automatically reads into which module that you're in and gives you the list of fields that you're able to pull from. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to go and merge in the number of guests for this field. So what this does is when we get to this screen, it's going to pull in that number of guests for the related record that was found. We're going to mark this as mandatory, so it's not something that the user can skip. And we're going to update this button to next. From there, this screen is pretty much done. Great. Now, Brian, you may be asking, well, you have that. Now, how do you create the automations on the back end? And how do you make it sure that the record itself is also updated? So that's the next actions that we're going to create on here. So we've created a screen, we've created a decision tree. Now we need to take that data and put it into the system and create the automation processes. You can add in an email notification. For now, let's not forget we need to update that field. So we're going to update number of guests field. So that's going to be our action here. We're going to execute it, not for the current record. Again, that's going back to the very beginning when we were setting the module. That's not what we want here. We want to take in this record that we got from get record of bookings. And once we hit next here we're going to have this field for updating that field. So let's go ahead and look for the booking ID field. And we want to merge this with the input that we received on this screen, on the gray screen over here, down below. I'm going to go and use my merge hashtag. You can see here, type number sign or hashtag to insert merge field. We're going to do that. That same little window will pop up. We're going to use check-in for our kiosk. We're going to use not the check-in screen, but this screen right here, update number of guests. And then we're going to take that field. So whatever was inputted into that field will now be pushed into the record within our CRM. We're going to save and associate. Now, if you can remember, we also added a tag. So let's go ahead and create a tag. Let's add a tag here. Add update tag. And as you can see, this automatically already relates back to our get record function. We'll hit next. And then we'll just go ahead and updates. There we go. We'll just select that. Update number of guests. We'll hit save. And last but not the least, we created a task. So under activities, we want to add a task. And we want to add the task name, follow-up call for the same record. So we're still using that same record. We'll hit next. And here you can just go and create your own subject. And if you didn't know already, another tip here is you can still merge in your subject the name of the person. As you can see now, we have the modules in here that has more options because we are now related back to the deal record. And you can just say, let's get the contact, and let's get the contact name. Follow-up call with contact name. Let's just say after 1 day, we want to call them back, notify and remind. And we'll save and associate. At this point, all these functions will run. And then let's go and create the last screen to say to our user, that is the record is updated. And for our display element here, we're going to use text and just let them know, hello, the record has been updated. You can let the client know to expect a call to confirm tomorrow. Something along those lines, whatever the process is for your business case. And we'll hit done. At this point, we now have that one branch of our Kiosk Studio. So now you can test run this, or we just publish it right away. Let's go ahead and publish it so we can go through some of the options where you can add this this Kiosk Studio. So for our demonstration purposes, we went with the home page and we put that on the dashboard. You can also add this in the setup page, or you can add it in custom buttons, record detail view, blueprints, and canvases. And that's where that very first option back here in this little window, the show and hidden window over here of setting the module is going to really be beneficial for you. But let's go ahead and associate this to our dashboard. We have a dashboard here, the manager's dashboard. So let's go ahead and just add that there. You'll see that this was the demo Kiosk Studio that I showed before, but now we have a check-in that we can add that functions the same. So let's hit save there. Let's go to home and we'll see right away that it's going to be functional. So here, let's refresh this record here. Let's clean this up really quickly so we know that it's working. All right, let's refresh once again, and we'll see that there is no tag. Our number of guests is 10, and our open activities is just 1. So when we go back to our homepage here, We'll use John Doe's, the same example, for our newly created Kiosk Studio. We're going to hit check, and you'll see right away we're outputting almost the same, if not the same info that we did on our demo. We're going to update the number of guests right there, and you'll see that the number of guests was pulled in with the amount of 10. We'll change that back to 8. We'll hit next, and the last window appears, record updated. You can let the client know to expect a call to confirm tomorrow. We'll hit done. We'll go back to our record here, and we'll refresh to see if everything worked. Perfect. Now we can see that the record has been tagged. We can see this is, oh, there's an error there. That was supposed to be updated to 8, I believe is what I put in there. But we can see here that we have created an open activity. So to maybe just quickly check here what ended up happening for our field updates, you can always edit, and it's going to create a draft for you there that you can publish once again. Action. Yep, this is the field that we were looking to update. Check-in, number of guests, booking. Oh, I mapped it to the wrong field, booking ID. So if you go to the field here, our booking ID got changed. But you can see if I didn't map it in the wrong field, this would have been updated. Number of guests would have been updated to 8. But that's it for the very quick demo of a use case of a Zoho Kiosk Studio.